you?
I'm good.
Yeah, it's been a minute. We never really get to talk much. Usually it's at a poker table, and
And usually it's me cracking jokes and everybody laughing at people. And poker's fun though. It's a laid back type atmosphere.
It can be. It can be draining though. I can imagine for a
dealer. Yeah, it can.
So you probably, out of all of my poker degenerates, not that you're a degenerate, because you know I'm thinking of you as the dealer more. So I have lots of different people in my life, and that's kind of what I'm doing here, is letting other people kind of peep into other people's lives, because you don't realize the just lingo and things that you would never imagine. I once was standing in line at a grocery store, and I had another job. It's a little bit more of a degenerate than even poker. And I was out doing some collections, and I just seen this older lady over there, and they were just talking, arguing. I'm like, their lives, it's a completely different world. It's like, they have no clue what's going on beside them, and I have no clue what's going on beside me. So that's why we wanted to do this, something people would take a look. And I would have to say, out of all the poker people, you're probably the one I tell probably the most stories about, and you probably wouldn't imagine that. Yeah, because you probably wouldn't imagine that, because most people don't understand. Now I'm talking about people that don't know poker. These are people now, if I'm talking to poker guys, I'm talking about, but when I'm talking to people that have no clue, and the reason for that is that you're female and you can control a table really well. And I have a feeling you do pretty well making what you make at it. And I talk to people, I'm like, yeah, there's a really good, opportunity for people who could do it, could really make some money there. So I wanted to kind of let people start seeing the insides of poker. Another thing is, I've been all over playing poker, different places. And this area for a long time has had a strong group of poker players. And you know every one of them. I mean, you're sitting there probably running them through your head like I am. Some solid players that could play anywhere. And then there's been a lot of kind of a change up here recently in the poker world around here. There's been a lot of different things going on, and people trying to capture the next thing. I've been in and out just briefly. So friends of ours that we both know, I'll talk to them about it, or I might go out to their game. And a friend of mine, Jeff, well, we ran a game together. Yeah. And he's running a game now. But it's so funny.
I dealt for him the other day.
Yeah, really? Yeah.
I also played in his game.
Yeah, I love that guy. He is like a brother to me, and he's my son's godfather.
He is really, really
genuine
good dude.
Yeah. Genuine dude.
Yeah. No fake stuff.
Yeah. We really need to get into you, but I want to say one thing about Jeff now, whether we use it or not. My father died last year, and it was a tough spot, because for me, I'm sorry, but this podcast isn't about me, but for me, that was a tough spot, because a lot of people bounced on me throughout life. My mom was an alcoholic and a extreme drug addict, and she just, in and out of my life, off and on. And, I had a really great marriage previous to the one I'm at now, but that changed. So it's just always seemed like, but my dad was always a constant, So it was a big deal for me when he passed. And then I was in a spot here where I have a company to run, and we're week to week every day. I mean, it's just, how am I going to make payroll? How am I going to make payroll? I said, Jeff, I need your help. He said, what do you need? I said, I need this in the bank today. And then the next day I need this in the bank. And he made it happen. He did. He went and deposited it into my account. And I still owe him for that, because after that, it's been hard to recoup, and he has been unbelievable. I mean, and even though it was money that he had, he didn't have it. It was, it was there for a reason. So I hope he knows how much that meant to me. And
he kept me out of jail. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
he's that guy.
Yeah, he is. And I'd do anything that he needed me to do too, because I appreciate him for real. You don't find many people like Jeff.
And then isn't it weird that we go to a poker table to find somebody like that? Yeah. I've known Jeff back in Tabo. We would sit there playing all night.
If you pay attention, you can find those people.
There's some genuine people,
but you got to pay attention.
Yeah, and they
otherwise you will get bluff.
Exactly. I was going to say, is a good term to use. Yeah. So now let's talk more about you. So I tell the stories about how it seemed like you went to out of the country at some point,
I
right?
did.
You traveled out of country.
Yep.
And if I'm not mistaken, you found a poker game.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So tell me
I
about that.
went
That
to
would be a great
Germany.
way to start. Yeah. I've said Ireland and I
Yeah.
don't even know, but I just know there's a story there.
Germany. I was 25 years old. I got married to a young lady that was in the military, and she got stationed in Germany. So me and my 4 kids packed all of our stuff up that we could, sold all the furniture, and went to Germany. I was there for 2.5 years. Loved it. Wish I could have stayed. Beautiful place, beautiful people, smart people, and the poker scene is ridiculously lucrative on both ends, playing and dealing. So over there, I played in a tournament probably 2-3 times a week and placed in the money at least twice every single week. And that was playing with German people, American people, just whole different cultures. You know, you get to meet people, you get to understand how other people think because of where they came from, stuff like that. It was amazing. But the dealing was just for American soldiers. They had a home game over there and they found out I could deal. And I said, just let me come deal for an hour. If you don't like me, pay me my tips and I'll go on about my business and you'll never hear from me again. If you like me, I'll keep coming back. So I went over there, 20 minutes in, the guy's like, hey, so-and-so, give her a break. I walk outside with him. He said, anytime I'm here, I want you here. I said, okay. And I was happy with it too, because I was making really good money over there. I mean, I made probably anywhere between 3,000 and 4,000 euro a week.
I'm doing the math on that. That seems pretty good.
It's good. It's really good for somebody who doesn't have a degree. I mean, otherwise I would have been working at the commissary for $12 an hour stocking stuff at night, you know. So I was very, very thankful for that opportunity. And it was fun. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to be around soldiers anyway. I respect that profession more than anything, even though some of that stuff's messed up too. Most of them have the heart to go do something for our country because they believe in that, you know. So it was a really great experience. I loved it. And I want to go back before I'm gone, you know. Definitely. So
yeah, I tell that story a lot about people because I even try to convince my kids I say, hey, you don't have to take it as a profession, but knowing a skill like that is something you could probably jump into just about anywhere.
You really can.
I have before, and I'm horrible at it.
How long did you do it?
Well, you know, that's the thing. I would do it just briefly at me and Jeff's game, you know, or something like that.
Just so, like a fill-in type thing.
Exactly. And then we'd start splitting up a pot, and I'll be like, I
don't know what to do.
Yeah, but I felt like I was okay, you know, and I didn't care because at the same time I'm just filling a spot. You guys just chill out. You're not going to get as many hands. I'm going to screw up, but the real dealer will be back here in a minute. Right. Or we can just stop and you not do anything. So yeah, they were okay with that. They let me roll. So the other thing is it's extremely tiring. You know, I know you probably put in no telling how many hours.
It's really, really bad on your back and neck. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's for someone with my posture, especially. Like, I know you can tell me sitting here right now, my shoulders are forward. I'm not, you know, and a lot of that comes from dealing poker. Because I've dealt poker for 22 years, and that is like a stationary spot, you know, and it's not even like I do it on purpose. Like, I would legitimately have to concentrate on sitting up straight. It's just not a thing for me because I've sat in that chair for so long.
you know, that's I've found that that's a problem with a lot of poker players is back issues, you know, just sitting there for hours. So a normal session, you know, people don't realize what sessions can run. What's some of the longer sessions you've had that you can remember?
I dealt a poker game in Benton. It was at like an old hotel spot. That they had gutted the lobby and made it a poker room. So it was like a home game.
Awesome. Why wasn't I there? Yeah. That sounds cool.
So this was back when I was like, I don't know, maybe I think Maddie was just born. So 18 years ago, it made me really young. And I dealt for 3 days.
3
The
days.
only time I left the table was to go use the bathroom. Back then, you could smoke in the building and all that. So they just gave me an ashtray, let me keep my cigarettes beside myself, and
3 days.
I would eat right there at the table. 3 days. I'd get up and go wash my hands, go to the bathroom, wash my hands again, go back
Clean
to the
up.
table.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, 3 days. It was craziness. But I made so much money, it did not matter.
You bought a car. After
But when
that.
I left there, they had to have another dealer come in because they still weren't done.
That's
But
crazy.
I was done.
Yeah, of course.
I needed a nap, you know, so.
And you get to that point. I've been there kind of, I played some long sessions, and you get to a point where you up so long, it's hard to go to sleep. Yeah. It's hard to
Well, not for me, but yeah, I understand.
It was for me. And
yeah. I could handle stuff like that back then. Now,
yeah, it's hard.
In 2 hours, I need a break because my brain is fried, and I need a minute to. Otherwise, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to cost people money. Things are going to be done that are not supposed to be done. The game's not going to run as smooth. The house is not going to make as much money. I'm not going to make as much money. It's just a bad situation. So for me, every 2 hours, I need to go smoke a cigarette and just chill for a minute, 15, 20 minutes, whatever. But some of the younger dealers, and I can remember back when I was younger, I didn't have to do that then. And the younger dealers now, they don't want to do that. They want to make that money, and I get it. But for me, as I get older, it's more of I just need to relax so I don't mess up so much that I look like I don't know what I'm doing. Because at 22 years, you should never look like that. 22 years when you've been doing something for that long.
Yeah, it's kind of a reboot. You need to reboot the system and clear the cache, and
I'll randomly take one too. Like, I don't know, the other day, this is a random story, but the other day I was dealing and a guy got upset with me because he said something about the hand right after he folded. He made a comment and I said, hey, you can't say stuff like that. You can't say anything that might change somebody else's action in some way, influence what they're going to do in this pot. And he got all irritated with me. And then he got quiet. And then about 30 minutes later, he makes the comment, well, the rules change every day. Maybe we need to have some rules up on the wall. And I said, hey, man, the rules don't change when I'm sitting here. No matter whose house I'm in, the rules are the rules to poker. Integrity of that game is really, really important to me. And a lot of that has gone out the window, except for casino-style poker, because they enforce rules.
Well, going to that, yeah, that's a rule. I mean, that's a standard rule.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're obviously not playing much poker if you don't think that's a rule. But here's the thing: a lot of people don't know half of the things you've just talked about. Like, and that's what I want to do real quick. Well, not real quick, as long as you want. But like you were talking about in Germany, getting into the money on a tournament. We also, and then that particular rule you were just talking about. You talked about the house. So, and then of course you have, not always a pit boss, but someone that's either the house, that's over that, and just things like that, like the dealer button. Give me just kind of a little bit of a rundown of some of those lingo, starting with like playing in the money. What's the difference between cash and a tournament?
Okay,
home games, and I think that's really the thing I want to get into because people really have no clue. When I talk to people, I'm like, I used to play games, and I got friends. We got a game over at Laura's house, and we play every Thursday night. I'm like, oh, what's the buy-in? $20. I'm like, not what I'm thinking. Not what we're thinking about. We're on a different page. Yeah. So just a couple. Just hit me with a couple of those things.
In the money, what I meant by that is, so there's 2 types of poker play. Of course, there's lots of different kinds of games you can play. But the one that I take interest in is Texas Hold'em, if I play. I like tournaments, which is more of like a structured increase in how much money you have to put in the pot every time you play. And it's not determined necessarily by the player, but it's determined by whoever structures the tournament. So the idea of a tournament for me is just to wait it out until you get to the certain point where they start paying you money.
Yeah, I think they call it the bubble sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, the money bubble.
I actually bubbled on a tournament not long ago. I was not happy with myself. But, I mean, the key is to just make it to the money, and by money, I mean like if there's 30 players, they pay 3 spots. So the last 3 people sitting at the table get paid, depending on how they go out. So my main goal in a tournament is to maximize on my big hands and be patient until I get to the money. And then it's time to play poker. And then as long as I get to the money and I know I'm going to get my money back and add a little bit for my time, because I'm already enjoying myself when I play. So really it's entertainment. So if I make money, then that's a big plus for me. So once I get to the money, then I play real poker. Then I buckle down and I'll play a 7-8 offsuit behind the button for too much, and just catch people in spots and do my best to cash, to make money.
So that tournament style, I think that's what most people who don't play poker would be most familiar with, because of television poker. Television poker is generally always a tournament, and they see these big, huge bets for, you just put 20,000. Well, those chips were bought for a buy-in
for a certain amount.
Yeah, and then you get a lot of chips. And they represent money, but not the amount that you put in.
Yeah, they're just chips in a tournament. Now, in a cash game, whole different story. So that's the other route. You go and you give a guy $300 and he gives you $300 in chips. Maybe 25s, 5s, 1s, different denominations, whatever. But you have $300 total in front of you. And basically you pay blinds, which I don't really know how to explain that without.
Well, I think a blind, we first would need to talk about.
It's like an ante.
Basically. Yeah, it's almost like the ante because you have. People. It circles the table. Each person pays, so it's basically you're paying to stay at the table every round it goes
for your
around.
Seat.
Yeah,
and for the button.
Sure,
That's the way I look at it.
And the button would be representing a dealer, because usually you would pass the deal, but when there's a dealer in play, and that's position, and that might be something you'd want to talk about. Yeah. So playing in and out of position, things
Absolutely.
like that.
That's what I was saying about like the 7-8 offsuit. Or even a 7-8 suited. I love a 4-5 suited on the button. There's just small connectors. If you have a big hand on the button, you can play it off just because you have the button, because people think it's a position play or whatever. But if you have a small hand, you can also play that off as a big hand, or you can catch on the small hand too. So where you're at in action means a lot on what you can do as far as making people feel like, oh no, this is a bad spot for me to be in. You can put pressure on people if you're in a certain position on the table. Right. So
position and action. The position would be like that button represents you would be the last to act.
Right. So you get to determine what everybody has to put in the pot.
And why would that be better? Why is it better? Why are you in such a strong position when you are considered the dealer and last to act? I mean, it may seem simple to you and may seem kind of common sense, but really, what are they looking? What are you looking for there?
There in that position, you're looking for, depending on the hand you have and depending on what you're trying to actually do with the hand. I mean, if I have 1 caller versus 4, and I look down at kings on the button, obviously I need to raise this pot. And the reason for that is because I don't want somebody coming in there with an ace deuce offsuit and hitting an ace and beating my kings. Once again, I want to maximize on my big hands. If I can't maximize on my big hands and minimize my losses, there's really no point in playing. You're going to lose every time. You have to be able to play those position spots and get the pot to where it's just you and another person heads up when you have a big pair like that. A lot of people like to limp with big hands, especially like in the cutoff, which is like third or fourth. After. Yes. So a lot of people like to overplay those hands in those spots because they're nervous about the position. And a lot of people in those spots don't make a lot of money. So in those spots, sometimes it is better to just do like a min raise, a min click. And by that, I mean just double what they already have in there. I know some people don't know what that means.
Well, a min raise would be the minimum amount that you could raise and to actually make a raise.
Just to get some more money in there and then find out where everybody's at.
Yeah. I think that poker, in my opinion, and I've done some different things, it has so many variables. We could probably sit here. If we did a poker tutorial, like we're going to teach,
We could
we
sit
could
here
do
for
it
days.
for days and have multiple episodes and
Absolutely.
series.
And people still wouldn't get it.
It wouldn't until you're there doing it.
Yeah.
Because you have stuff like even pot odds. I try to explain pot odds to people before and they don't understand. And then, but at the same time, you're doing pot odds and you're taking this other person, you know, who is maybe, you know, 2 seats to the left of you, and he's a very aggressive player. So you got pot odds and you got an aggressive player there, and then you got a limper over here that may surprise you. All those things playing in the fact, and also your stack, you know, how much you got to play with.
Absolutely. I lost a big hand last night because, was it last night? Yes. Last night because I have pocket threes on the button and somebody made it 12 pre-flop. I believe the aggressive gentleman to my right made it 12. I just call. I'm never raising with pocket threes, ever. Never have in my life. Matter of fact, sixes or lower. I'm not raising with them. I want to see a flop for cheap, and I want to try to catch, and nobody's ever going to know that I caught until I decide that I want them to. So, again, I just call 2 more callers, and I'm like, okay, cool. Flop comes 3, 5, king, 2 diamonds. I'm on the button. So everybody's acting in front of me.
So before you can continue, okay, real quickly. So you're trying to catch, and what you mean by catch is you have a pair of threes, and you're hoping to hit a 3.
Yes.
That's catching, and then you would have a set, which is a pretty strong hand.
Yes.
And you're trying to catch that on what we call the flop, right? Which after each player gets 2 cards and a betting series goes, then they put down 3 face-up cards. They're community cards, and that's called the flop. So you're ideally hoping to get a 3 on the flop, and that's what happened.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, if I don't catch a 3 on the flop and it checks around to me, I still bet. Because I'm on the button, because I'm in position.
And you could still catch.
And I can still
2 cards
catch.
to go, yeah.
But also, I get to see where everybody else is at for my amount. Right. They don't bet 40 into me and me still be wondering when I make the call. You know what I mean? It's like if they check to me, then I'm betting right there. But they didn't check. The first guy bets $40. The second guy calls. The third guy calls.
This is getting interesting now.
Okay. So everybody's still in the hand for $40 each. Yeah. Okay. This happened. This is why I brought this up.
Now you're sitting there, just for clarification, you're sitting there with a set of 3s and everybody's betting into you while you have position. So this is pretty solid. You like this position.
The only
scary thing are those 2 diamonds.
Exactly. So that's the only thing I don't like about it.
Right.
At that point.
2 diamonds would be that somebody has an opportunity to have 2 diamonds in their hand, and they're going to try to catch another diamond and get a flush. A flush is a really hard hand to beat. However, with a set of 3s, all it has to do is what we call pair the board. Now you have a full house. So you're still in love with this hand, just so everybody understands. And the only thing you're really concerned about are those diamonds, somebody catching. One of those 3 people betting into you are almost positively trying to get that draw.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so it comes to me and it's 40 and 3 people. I mean, there's 3 people in the hand besides me, and they're all still in. And I look down at my stack and I have about $160.
Yeah. Time.
That's all I can do is put all of my chips in there and pray I get lucky and that
there's no other decision to be made there. Yeah, right.
So I say all of that to say this. On the turn, I got 2 callers. I got a diamond draw. Yeah. This one guy has a diamond draw, and because he called, Jeff calls with a straight draw. Right. Okay? So now I have 2 people drawing at me.
With lots of cards that can beat you. Well, I guess I should take that back, because if any of those cards paired the board, you smoked them.
But with 2 more cards to come.
Yeah, you're still pretty solid. I mean, but there's a lot out there. I mean, you're good. I would be in the same.
On the turn, the diamond comes, and the guy wins. Yeah. And I said all of that to say this, that if I would have looked down at my stack before I looked at my pocket 3s, I could have rebought. And I could have shoved 300 right there, and they probably don't call, or at least
Yeah, it
one of
makes
them
it harder,
doesn't.
definitely.
You know, at least I have some kind of aggression to go towards, hey, this is my pot. I've got the best hand. Put it, put yours in the mug,
Yeah.
fold them.
Don't take the chance.
Exactly.
Mhm.
But I didn't have enough money in front of me to do that. So I did not succeed at that hand. But
But based on what you had, you absolutely played that right. You only what the crazy thing is when you have that happen to you, you rebuy later that night. You're sitting there now. You got pocket sevens, same position, and you got pretty much the same thing going on again. But you go on tilt. And that's something nobody really understands. Yeah. When you go on tilt, and it's not necessarily because of there's so many different things that can do it. An ASO player,
I'm a dealer, and I go on tilt dealing the cards.
Yeah, you get pissed off at people.
I get mad.
But the worst thing is getting drawn out on. You have it, you're solid, and then you get drawn out, and then that affects play later. So you're in there.
A lot of poker players feel that way, and I think that I probably feel that way sometimes. But for the most part, I look at all of those things as like a way to learn a little bit of something, just like I should have topped up on my buy-in before those threes, things like that. But mostly when you get irritated like that, even just small little things will make you, and a lot of players, my brother's the worst.
Really?
The absolute worst. I mean, he's a big dude, and he's just a big crybaby when he gets drawn out on. Love him to death, but like a lot of poker players feel like, that's unfair. But the truth of the matter is, there's 5 community cards for a reason. The hand's not over until the 5th community card is there, the river. And you can't be mad at somebody for what they want to do with their money. And honestly, if you play poker a lot, you want them to make those calls.
Exactly what I was going to say.
You want them to make stupid calls because guess what? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You don't get your chips back most of the time. So people that play like that, I try not to educate because the whole point of playing poker is you got friends at the table for sure, but we're all trying to take each other's money. That's the whole point of us being there. So, I just look at it as like, that's just,
Well, it is. And I've seen so many guys when you play. And there's a difference in the level of play based on how much your money is being bought in for. If you're buying in for 300 versus buying in for 3,000. So that makes a big difference on how people play. Now, in those smaller games, you're going to get people that are going to gamble a little bit. $100, $200 isn't a lot of money to them. They're going to see, maybe I hit. It's a gamble. It's like going and pulling or the slot machine. But again, like you said, that's what you want to be at a table with. The more of those, the better. And I'm with you on that. There's a few players out there that I know that just get tore up if they can't run you out of a hand and you hit it.
And if they get
like,
that
well,
way,
you shouldn't have been there. Why were you in there? Keep playing like that. And again, what are you doing? You're either educating them or you're pissing them off. But it's weird how that works. But so on that end, talking about the level of games, there's some pretty heavy games that go on around this area. So tell me about some of the big games you've dealt. Some of the big games. Like, I'm thinking of like, what are the buy-ins? What are you seeing being rebought? And then some pot sizes. I think that would be shocking.
Okay. So a lot I deal 2 different kind of levels of games in this area. One of them is a 1-3 game, which means the blinds are $1 and $3. A lot of people buy in for 200-300 max in that game. It's a much more calm game most of the time, unless you just get a wild hair player. It's a better game to learn.
Right.
In my opinion. Because in the other game, the blinds are $5 and $5.
Yeah.
And the pots get, they buy in from anywhere $300 to $1,000 at the beginning of the game. Now, if someone goes broke and they rebuy into that big game, it's usually $1,000 or better. Unless it's just somebody that's like on their last 500 and that's all they're going to spend for the night or whatever. But For the most part, people are buying in for 1,000 or more. Pot sizes in that game, I think the biggest pot I've probably seen in that game over the years, it hasn't been the same person running it, but it's been consistently the same game through the years, is probably a $16,000-$17,000 pot. It's crazy. It's insane.
That is nuts. Yeah.
And people who have a lot of money, they want to win a lot of money. They don't want to play for pennies. You know what I mean? And I get it. Like, the whole point of playing is to entertain yourself. And
yeah, well, what you're saying there is the same thing when somebody tells me they got a $20 buy-in game. It's not something that I'm interested. It's like, it's like, oh yeah, that just doesn't sound fun at all.
But now for somebody that's just starting out, that doesn't know a whole lot about poker, perfect game to play in. Or matter of fact, just download a poker app on your phone, because they're going to play terrible. You're going to lose, and you're going to learn a lot if you pay attention.
So you said what was the pot size you said you thought was kind of one of the larger ones?
17,000.
Yeah, 16 or something.
And that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of those games will average. What do you think?
An average pot size, probably $1,200-$1,300 each pot. I mean, you're gonna have smaller ones obviously throughout the night, but for the most part, they're $1,000 or better.
And then you're looking at one hand every 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, or as fast as you can deal, generally. So
let me think. What is 140 divided by 5? What is that?
140 divided by 5, Tristan.
140 divided by 5?
Yeah. 180.
28.
Yeah, well, never mind. Tristan, I got Jack on payroll now. You're excused.
I didn't have anything open. Yeah.
So that's getting out 28 hands in 30 minutes.
Yeah, so that's almost a minute.
But that is not actually 28 hands. I'm probably going to say it's probably about 25 after bomb pots. And I know nobody knows what that is, but you do. But that slows the game down a little bit. But the rake is more. So I was going by how much money I take and dividing it by, I take $5 a hand. So that's about, he said 28. So probably about 24, 25.
This was just on average.
Minutes.
Yeah, 25 every 30 minutes. So, we're looking at no more than 2 minutes per hand.
So you're looking at $20,000 going across the table.
Floating back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that any one person's spending that much. Right. But that much money is moving around the table.
Yes.
And a lot of money being added back into that table all night long. And those stacks get bigger and bigger and bigger. So, I think that would be surprising to people. And now here's the thing. I have definitely played a lot of home games all over, but generally when I go leave here, I used to play in Hopkinsville and Clarksville, but really when I go out, like out of town, I'll play at a casino. Yeah. Are the home games as big other places, like say Germany? Are you seeing games that big or bigger?
That was 7-8 years ago, and they were just as big, if not bigger.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you've done a lot of dealing over throughout the country, right? You've done different areas, and
I've dealt in Florida. I've dealt a lot in Kentucky, Illinois, Tennessee, Clarksville, Nashville.
Nashville, I bet that would
Missouri, at the casino there in Cape Girardeau. I worked at 2 different casinos. I liked working at casinos because I'm very much a people person. I talk to everybody. I don't meet a stranger. I don't get embarrassed. It's just one of those things, it's what I like.
Part of making you a good dealer.
So I do like the casino for that. I, however, do not like the casino because of it just feels like high school a lot of the times. And it's a bunch of adults that are just
trying to be popular.
Yeah. It's just not my vibe. You know what I mean? I'm not here for anybody to like me. I'm here to make money, So, that's just really the only thing that I really didn't like. And as a dealer, you make more money dealing home games because you're making straight tips. They don't pay me anything else. I make tips. It's perfectly legal. I file taxes on it every year. I mean, it's a good gig. No retirement. So you have to be smarter than I was whenever I was young and save some of it. But
So I miss the casino here because it was new people. You'd get fresh people in, and we'd all be just okay. So most people know the poker movie. Rounders is like everybody's favorite. It's dramatized, but it does kind of give you an idea. And the one scene where they're at the casino and they're all sitting around and the people, fresh people, just coming in, and you can just see they're all everything changed from we're playing each other and we're going to take as much from each other as we can and still be friends to sharks and whoever can grab that fish first. And I've been there so many times. It's like, oh, he's going to give it all away. And then they give it to somebody else. But that was the good thing about the casino for me was there was some fresh people because you play these same people over and over. You learn them, sure, but they learn you. Yes. And everybody in this area has a way of playing. I mean, you get almost I don't know where it would be, but like people know me. I usually played pretty tight, and then I loosened up recently. But they know, and like you said, you're there to win. No, you're actually. I mean, when you were poker dealing, you're there for money. If you have a little fun, that's great. For me, that's what poker's always been. I'm not there to drink. I'm not there to have fun. I like everybody. I do have a lot of really close friends through poker. But number one thing, I would be at home for sure if I didn't think I could make a little bit of money there. So that's that. But that gives me that persona that's why I'm there. And there's other people there. We all know the Jeffs, Steels, and the big personalities. And then we had the people who are known to be just completely asses, and they're doing that trying to get you to do something stupid, so, but we all know those people, and it's kind of funny that you have that, but having that poker scene in a casino where there's new people and you can learn them really quickly, and that's where you take advantage. Yeah, I think that's where you can make the most for me anyhow.
If you go to a place that's got a decent game, I can't find a decent casino game
getting
around here.
Harder. Yeah. Well, it's funny too that poker kind of was what originated casinos. That's how it got started. And now it's getting harder and harder to find. And I think that's because the real estate in a casino is valuable. So if you got a bunch of poker tables and all they're getting is a little bit of a rake,
$5 a hand,
compared
versus
to a little bitty
$600 of slot machines making them in 30 minutes.
So quite a bit different. I've always people ask me about poker. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe you just go gamble your money." I'm like, "No, if you're out there on the floor." You're playing the house. If you're pulling a slot machine, playing the house. Now, when I say the house, that's the people, the casino or the people putting on the game.
Yep.
But when you're playing poker, the house isn't really involved. You are playing the other players.
You're playing against
other
people.
There is a certain level of skill that you can have.
For sure. Luck is also a thing. Absolutely. But more skill than luck, in my opinion. Just what I've seen over the years, what I know about myself. I mean, I started dealing when I was 17, about to turn 18 years old. My dad had a poker game in his shed.
That's what I was wanting to get to, that point about how you started with him and his game. It went on for several years, and he well known.
6 or 7 years he ran his game.
Yeah, and then your brother, you get both dealt there, right?
Yep. My brother actually is the one that taught me how to deal because he likes to play and he didn't want to deal. And he didn't know what kind of money was involved when he kind of shoved it off on me. But do you know who Bob Vance is?
Yeah, I remember.
So Bob Vance came to my dad. My dad had a tournament every week. He worked at General Tire in Mayfield, and he told all of his buddies, come play, let's play a tournament. And I can't remember how much the buy-in was or anything like that in the beginning. But I just kind of was watching and paying attention. And Bob Vance came. I don't know how he got invited, but he ended up showing up there. And he told my dad, he said, "Man, why don't you have a dealer? Why don't you have somebody dealing the cards?" And my dad's like, "What?" At this time, he had, he doesn't know.
So it was a pass the deal then.
Yeah.
Everybody took a turn.
Everybody passed, right? And Bob said, "No, you need to teach somebody how to deal." So Nick was like, "Come here, Nicole." Took me in the kitchen. I promise you, he taught me how to deal in about 15 minutes at our kitchen table. And I already knew what poker hands were and that sort of thing. I liked poker already, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing when it came to Texas Hold'em. But he taught me in about 15 minutes, and I went in there and I dealt that tournament. And when it was over, Bob walked up to me and gave me a $50 bill. And I was like, "What's this for?" And he said, "For working." I said, "Really? I'm 17 years old. $50 to me means something back then." I mean, so I'm like, "Okay, I like that," So every week I did that. Well, it got so big that we ended up having to move it out of the living room or the family room into a building behind the house. My dad told me I needed to teach some other people how to deal. I taught my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, and it got big. It got, 5, 6 tables every week.
That's a lot.
And we did things like a Calcutta. I mean, if you're used to gambling, probably know what a Calcutta is, but you basically, you auction off the players. And I mean, it was just a big deal. My mom cooked and everybody tipped her. It was just a great game. As a matter of fact, it's probably the best home game I've ever been a part of. And I'm not saying that because it's my dad, but he ran it right. I mean, good food. You're not going to act crazy here. We're here to have a good time. If you can't, you can leave. I mean, 2 people got in a fight one time, and my dad told them, "I don't care if you kill each other, just get away from here." And they did. They have 2 big old guys, and my dad's not a big guy, but they respected what he said because he was just that way. We're going to do it the right way, and everybody's going to have fun, and people are going to win, and people are going to come back. And it was a good time. It was great. It was probably the greatest part of my, if you want to call it a career, the greatest part of my career. I learned a whole lot. And within, I don't know, 2 months of doing that tournament, I met a gentleman named Billy Clayton. And old school, he used to run diamonds and all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, he was crazy, but he gave me a job as soon as the first time he ever saw me deal, he gave me a job. And my dad told him, "Yeah, she can work for you, but you better take care of her. If you don't take care of her, there's going to be a problem. And then that's when everything took off. Everybody that was involved in any of those games told their friends about me. And what's crazy is I didn't think I was that good at it, and I still don't think I'm great at it. I just pay attention really well. But back then, it was kind of like, why is everybody making such a big deal? Well, oh my goodness. The older I got, the more I realized, the more I dealt, that there really aren't a whole lot of great poker dealers.
Yeah, I would agree.
So then I kind of made it my mission to teach other people how to be good poker dealers. And Moneymakers, when it was in Paducah, I hired all of those dealers. There were a couple that were iffy, but for the most part, like, they were good dealers. They're still good dealers. Some of them deal home games, some of them deal at casinos, whatever. But that I made that my personal mission to teach people how to do it the right way, so the integrity of the game can stay in place. Because if not, people just do and say whatever they want to do, And as a dealer, if you don't have control of the game, then things can go bad. And if they're playing for $16,000 and $17,000 pots, you're going to make sure everything goes pretty smooth.
Yeah, that's a big responsibility right there to keep that going. Yeah. So you were 17 when you started dealing for your dad.
About to be 18.
Yeah. So I would say, in my experience, a 17-year-old girl dealing cards has to get some thick skin pretty fast, I would imagine. Now, I didn't know you then. I don't know when we really kind of met. But those, and I never played at your dad's game, but I've heard a lot about it.
Right.
And when you're talking 5 and 6 tables, people don't understand. It's really hard for a home game to get 2 tables nowadays on a Saturday or a Friday. So that's enormous. And then did you just only do tournaments for a while, or was it both?
So they started running the tournament out there, and then my dad started talking with other people about cash games and that sort of thing. And then he kind of whatever. He kind of decided that it would be a good way to make extra money. So
Yeah, that's exactly why
so
to do
he
it.
started doing a cash game just to, because a tournament, yeah, you can cut off of a tournament. You can get your money back, what you spent on drinks and food and stuff, and pay for the lights, whatever, no big deal. But there's not a whole lot of profit that comes off of running a tournament. So the main thing was, let's run the tournament so we can get players in here so we can have a cash game.
Yeah, and for just as a anonymity and their general purposes, a cash game makes money because they rent the seat.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
They rent the seat. 100%. Every cash game in this area, they rent the seat, yeah, so that they can pay their light bill.
Yes.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But the dealers do still get tipped.
Yes.
Yeah, out of that. And I would say when I do, I don't want you to think I'm going all over town telling stories about you, but when I do talk about you to people, I'm explaining to them, especially like there's been a few people that I thought would be great dealers that were women. And I thought, and I said, I know a lady and I think she does pretty good. She knows the game. She knows how to deal. But she has to know that these guys are sitting around the table and it's just, that's them having fun, but she doesn't. It's not like, I would say I think that they like better. They would rather you come back at them.
Absolutely. Then snarl my nose up.
Yeah, snarl your nose, or even, say, oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
No, they'd rather you come back at them,
Absolutely.
and you have that.
As a dealer, you're selling yourself. It's an entertainment business, regardless of what anybody thinks, just like the dealing at the casino. The more you can get people to laugh, the more you can get people to enjoy themselves and enjoy the fact that you're the person sitting there in front of them, the more money you're going to make. I mean, that's just the way it is. People want to have a good time. They don't want somebody that's sitting there that's got a corn cob stuck up in it, let's have fun. So I do. I mean, but there's a fine line too. Not with what they say to me as far as, men are men. They say all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm used to that. It just rolls right off. But I mean, like there's a line as far as calling me names or, and I do.
There's a certain amount of respect.
I have to be stern sometimes. It's not good for me because it hurts my tips, but at the same time, it's good for me because it's going to ensure that I still have a job next week because the guy sitting over there that runs this game knows I'm going to make sure it's done right. So over the long haul, it's a good thing. And I try to keep it to a minimum. Sometimes I got to get up and go smoke me a cig because dude just made me mad and I don't know what I'm going to say, but that's not a whole lot, so I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that at this point.
Well, I think too, you have to look at, you got to have the person that's running the game has to step in sometimes, and he's got to have your back to a certain degree. And that's hard because they are looking at, I got to keep these people happy.
That is the worst thing about poker around here, especially that big game that I'm talking about. They just, and what's crazy is something will happen and I'll be like, well, you were sitting right here. Why didn't you say something? I can't guess. I have to know what the rule is or I can't enforce it. So, my most recent boss, I think said it best, I'm going to make money, but only if these people come in here. So if I make them mad, then they're not coming.
Exactly.
So in order for you to make money, I can't make them mad. So you handle yourself a lot better. You're a woman. They're going to take better to that than, some man standing up telling them you shouldn't be doing that or whatever. And so I get it. I understand from a business perspective why they kind of just let me do what I need to do. It does hinder the tips thing though. Sometimes, sometimes I'll think, oh, I'm going to have a really good night because so-and-so's here, good tipper, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden something crazy happens and I'm having to say, hey, I asked you twice now to stop. Right. So you need to stop. And then,
That's tough.
yeah, it is. It is
That's
because
tough.
it's like, I'm turning into mommy mode. They joke with me all the time. They're like, oh, mom's here. Everybody behave. Don't say anything. But I think they appreciate it too, though.
Yeah, I
Because
do
if you're
too.
in a big hand and somebody's over there talking about what you could possibly have, and this guy's trying to decide whether or not he wants to call your all in bet, you're risking either A, that guy having a better hand than me and calling me and taking my chips, or B, him not having a better hand than me and folding and me not making the money I should make.
Should have made, right.
So to me, that's important. So I'm very weird about
That is
stuff
a
like that.
very important rule. And you were talking about it earlier. The rule, basically, as I know it, is you cannot talk about the hand if there's more than two people in the hand. Now, if you and I, it's heads up, and heads up means that everyone else is folded, it's you and me to go, I can talk to you.
Absolutely.
I
We can
think
talk
there's
to each other.
There are certain probably things I wouldn't be able to do, and I can't think of any right now. I can even tell you I have a hand or I don't have a hand.
You can turn one card over if you want to in a home game. Now, some casinos won't let you do that. Some casinos, they'll kill your whole hand if you do that. So you want to make sure before you do it. But at most home games, like you can, as long as it's heads up, you and that person can say whatever you want. My issue is it's heads up, and this guy that folded on the turn and has $30 in the pot is over here talking about what he thinks this other person has.
Yeah, or I should have stayed in because I didn't.
Or even just the turn card comes in even that is too much.
It's it borders on collusion without even being part. And when we talk about collusion, that's when multiple players go in together. I know that happened at the well, yeah, but really kind of started way back at that 2-5 game on the boat when it went out.
Oh yeah, that definitely happened.
I can't remember. There's 3 guys and they would all come in.
Older men.
Yeah. And
Russ Claypool, probably.
Yeah.
Butch Walden.
Which is
and Eddie Schwetman. They used to do it all the time.
They would come in and buy in for this big money, and then somebody would sit down and they would just all 3 of them run them out,
pick them off.
Yeah, and I love Butch Walden.
Me too.
He still wears a hat that I gave him years ago.
Great pool player too, by the way.
Yeah, maybe better pool at one time. Now he was a good player too. I love that guy. He's funny too because he's an older gentleman. Here's 2 stories I'm going to quickly say about Butch. Okay. So my wife's quite a bit younger than me, and when we were dating, she was, very young. It took a while before she could go to the casino. Let's just say that, okay. But when she finally gets there, she's 21, and I'm sitting there around the table, and she's talking to me about poker, and Butch is there, and I said, that's what poker players turn into, babe. And she's like, you're done. Get out of there.
We're going home.
Yeah. But, and then the other one, Butch he was a big draw. He'd always be on that draw for usually a flush or something. And he would hit it and it'd piss somebody off. And then the 2 things he would do, either whenever they would start mouthing him, he's like, I don't even like lemonade. Or I don't like
random stuff.
Stuff,
just to make them mad.
The next hand, he would look at his cards and then fold them, and he'd say, "Can't catch shit," and it would just piss him off. But he was a great character. I
dealt for Butch too.
Yeah. Now him Hickory. I remember him, and I can't remember the guy that always says he wrote the book. White hair. I see him all the time. Steve
Sanders.
There it is.
Colonel Sanders.
They used to run a game together, I think, too, for a while.
I've done for Steve too.
Yeah, sure. There's a movie in all the people around, the characters that we have and the stuff that's happened. Yeah. So do you ever? And here's something that's kind of notorious to be talked about: is poker games sometimes get robbed, especially home games. I mean, not likely in a casino because there's so much security. So is that ever something that you think about, your safety?
I have never been in that situation, thank God.
Yeah.
I do, however, have friends that have been in that situation.
Yeah.
I have one friend that after the game that he was dealing got robbed, he said, I'm just not doing it anymore.
Yeah, I could see that.
He said, I got 7 kids and I had a gun to my head. It's not worth it. There's not enough money in the world, Sure. He's like, I'm not doing it. But I think for me personally, it kind of goes back to like, it's second nature to me. If I don't feel safe where I go, then I just won't make money. I just won't make money that night. But for the most part, I've always felt safe. There's precautions that you have to take, like cameras and,
Making sure you let
when
who you're
people
letting
knock on
in.
the door, you look and see who it is before you let them in, stuff like that. And that game that got robbed that I was telling you about, my friend was there. The door wasn't even locked. I mean, so you have to be smarter than that, You have to set yourself up for good things, not bad things.
I think that it's so rare to happen because I've only known of it twice, and once was up in Illinois years and years ago. It's so rare that people get kind of lackadaisical about it. They don't think it will, and then they start sliding up.
Do you know who Bob Spain is?
Yeah, Bob Spain was the one I was talking about.
Yeah,
up
that's
in
what I
Illinois.
thought. Yeah. The car light guy. That's what everybody called him. Good friend of mine. I dealt for him as well.
Yeah. He had it was a long time ago. I remember somebody.
Was it Carruthers of you?
Yeah, I played up there, did the same game. There's a fella that tells that story, and he's hilarious. He just talks about it. And he says, he stood up and said, fellas, what did he say? Something about, it isn't Halloween, fellas. Why are you wearing the mask? And they shot a shotgun over his head. He said, I about pissed myself. He said, I was done talking. I did whatever they asked me.
Give them whatever they want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not worth it.
It's not. It isn't. And really, there's not enough money there generally. I mean, there's some big games, but even then.
That game that got hit that I'm talking about, there was, it should have been way more money there the way it normally plays, but they got lucky. It was on a random night of the week, and it was only about $20,000 off of the 5 people that were in there.
That's definitely not worth either way.
Losing your life, no.
Yeah, going to get or trying to keep it. Yeah, so that's something too. But then also safety factors of like when you leave the game. I know a lot of people that feel a little uneasy leaving a game. There was a game in Hopkinsville. Truman used to run. I don't know. Did you ever deal there?
No, I do know.
That game was wild.
Truman.
That was a wild game.
And what was his girlfriend's name? Celine.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
She still plays.
Really?
Yes, in Oak Grove.
They had a house they rented out in the middle of nowhere, completely surrounded by cornfields. Only one way out was the only place there wasn't a cornfield.
So that was hard to leave that place.
When I left that first time, I went down there and I had done pretty decent, but it was like 2:00 in the morning. And they're like, "Oh, see ya." And they shut the door as I'm leaving. I'm like, there's no light. There's nothing. All there is cornfields and a driveway. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm like, man, turn the porch light on at least. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah, that's always been a little concern for people. And,
I don't know. I guess I'm just, maybe I'm just oblivious to it or something. I don't know, but I don't feel like I'm in danger, like, I guess maybe because it's just something that I've done for so long. I don't know. But I also have a strong faith in God, and if it's my time, it's my time. I'm not scared of nothing, Joe. I'm just not, so that might have some kind of factor in it too, but I don't know. I've just never felt really uneasy about it.
Yeah, I think probably mostly you've done it so long and you've gotten used to the feel of it. And you also know that if somebody did, what do you got to do but just sit there and go, I don't want to part of it. Yeah, take it. Let everyone get out of there. Yeah. No reason for that. It's ridiculous that people, understand. I guess I understand the urge to see it, because when you're sitting there and you're thinking, what in the world, all this cash floating around? I've often thought about doing a big, big, big game and only doing it on invitation only and doing it. I think one of the things, and this, you may agree with me on this or may not, a lot of games that get started, they break their players.
Absolutely.
They break their players because they have 2-3 games a week.
Because they're greedy.
I've always said, one game a week is a lot,
Or you could be really smart about it and run like a 1-3 game, a low level game one day, run you a tournament 2 days later, run you a cash game after it that's 5-5. I mean, if you space it out to where you can bring different types of players on different days, then it's not so bad. But if you play the same style game 3-4 days a week, you're going to run people completely broke, and you're going to have a hard time keeping the game going.
Yeah, and the thing about it too, what you just said there, different types of players, and that's really prominent. The 1-3 game, they do not want no 5-5 game guy sitting down there because it's way too much action.
They'll go home.
And and the 5-5 game he gets bored. And then the tournament guy is completely different. The only reason cash people play tournament games, usually home games, is to wait for the cash game afterward. So that's something funny.
Unless it's a big tournament.
Yeah. I was saying I need to play more tournaments because I do okay in them usually because I'm pretty tight and then I can play pretty aggressive if I need to. A variation in play. And I would like to talk about that real quick too before we call this tonight. But on tournament play for me, it always feels like I'm going there and I'm putting in 50 or maybe a big one, 300, dollars and it's a big chance I'm gonna walk out there with nothing. Whereas cash game, I may put $300 in, but for some reason, for me, it feels like you have a better chance of coming out there with something. The difference is I think if you could hit some big tournaments, you could really, I think that's what changes a poker player in the world, in my opinion, is somebody goes to a big tournament and they hit a big one. Yeah. They hit a really, really big one. Yeah. Now, your brother's a big tournament player, isn't he?
Used to be.
Yeah. He used to do really
he doesn't play as good as he used to play.
Yeah. Well, the world's changed.
The style of play has changed. And the aggressive thing, that's my brother's thing. He's very aggressive. And back then, people didn't play aggressive like that, but now a lot of people play aggressive poker. So it's kind of like you can try to muscle people around, but if you barrel meaning if you bet when the flop comes and then you bet again when the turn card comes and they call you and you don't have the nuts, you should probably slow down. But Nick's not like that. He'll just barrel again. I mean, he'll go 3 streets and try to push you out, but people aren't so scared of that anymore as they used to be.
I don't think they know that they should be. I think what happens is your younger guys come into poker and they don't really they've not set it around a poker table, get it. With a bunch of older guys, and then they just play completely. I think it's a lot more analytical to them. They're thinking it through. They're doing that math in their head. Yeah, and that makes for a completely different way of playing.
A whole lot different. Yeah. They call it internet poker.
Yeah. They got it all, the charts and everything broke down, and a little hard to keep up with. So, what do you think about that new guy? It seems like there's been a little bit of resurgence in the younger people playing. I see it on TikTok and social media. A lot of guys playing, and they're playing hands and stuff on a table. At a real game. Do you see much of that in the games around here yet, or new younger guys playing?
Actually, we have an 18-year-old. I won't name him, but he's a little aggressive player. He's a good player. Impressive for his age. By the time he's 35, he'll be making lots of money, beating all kinds of people at poker. In my opinion, he plays really well. And he plays the what do you call that? The swings. Yeah. He plays the swings really well. If he's, losing for the night and he's down already $600-700, he's going home. He's not going to pull out another $1,000 to try to get it back. Like, he's smart enough to walk away when things are not going to, again, minimize losses. So, if the cards are running terrible and you haven't caught a decent hand all night, you haven't won with a decent hand, time to go home. He's one of those players that'll, go home and try again the next time.
Yeah, I tend to be like that, and sometimes I wonder if that's a fault of mine. I might get 2 buy-ins in, and then I'll say, you know what, toss it. But so often I've seen some people, especially a friend of ours, Tori, he barrels, man. I'm telling you, there's no stopping that dude. He will sit there all night.
But no way I could play like that.
He tends to be pretty. My experience with Tori. Well, there's a lot of experiences there, but I'm going to talk about the positive experience with Tori is when he barrels, you think, what is this cat doing? And then he's in again and then again. Before you know it, the buy-ins can get larger because you're able to buy in for whatever the stacks are, the highest stack at the table. And he'll be buying in for $1,000, $2,000 after being deep in. And then before you know it, cashing out and making profit. I wonder sometimes if I need to do that in my own game, because I've often 300, 400, 600, and then I'm like, this isn't me tonight. I'm just going to go home. And
yeah, it kind of just depends on
like
really
I
who
said,
you're
who's
playing
there.
against.
Yeah.
You know, because if you continue to barrel into people that are going to call you because they know your style of play, then you're not really going to make any money over a long period of time.
Yeah. So also, when you're pushing to get that, to get back, you just want to get back even, and which Tori doesn't. He wants to get back to he's profit. He's there for a reason. I think sometimes that's a big decision to be made right there, is when is too much. I guess that really also plays into factor. Are you playing with your rent money, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But if you're not, a good rule of thumb, I think, as a player, is to say, okay, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to spend no more than $500 today. If the cards are running my way, cool. I won't spend that much, but I'm not going to lose any more than $500 in this game tonight. And if you go in with that in mind and you're good at making yourself do the things that you say you should do, then it's not too bad. But a lot of people don't have that stop button.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the younger players do have that stop button. And it might just be because they don't have the money to lose, or I don't know. But I do notice that with their style of play, it's like, okay, it's not my night, I'm going home. And then the next time they're there, they win $2,000-$3,000 and, everything's good again. But they handle their swings really well, the lows and the highs. And
something too that's kind of notorious with poker is nobody ever brings enough money. They want, so you're getting loans out in this area. It was really hard because there's a lot of areas around that they're going to put a little bit of juice on that stuff, but as a courtesy, here. But geez, a big game, you could have thousands of dollars out and waiting and waiting and waiting. And that was one of the things I was pretty good at. I collected a lot of that for people, but and I've often said there needs to be something, and there's a couple of good guys out there that if you help them out, they're going to get you back right away, and they're going to have to give you like appreciation money. And I think that's something that needs to be done. And then that same appreciation goes into the dealers. Now, you guys aren't there. Dealing is not necessarily ditch digging, but you're not having fun. You're not playing the game. So it's a job. It's 100% job. And I see, so you'll have tight tables that don't want to tip correctly. And the general rule is at least $1. If you win a pot, you throw $1 back. I've seen that a lot of players that just get caught up in it, or there seem like the same ones though. So I don't know. Then maybe they just pretend. That's an etiquette thing for you too, isn't it? Though how you have to deal with that.
Yes, it is. It is, because you cannot let it affect you. And I think that the main thing for me, they'll say something like, I'm never tipping you again. You're awful. I can never win with you. I'm never tipping you again. And I'm just that way. I'll just reach over and pat the table in front of them and say, that's okay. My way of living's not going to change if you never tip me again. When people don't tip me well.
Yeah.
That's my jokey joke. Everybody laughs but him, and now he looks like the butthole. So guess what? The tips get better.
He's got to start doing something.
They do. They get better, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like a tact about it, just like every other job.
Yeah.
You have to be firm but not rude. And I'm very, very grateful. If they had 50-cent chips, I'd be grateful for those.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very, very, I don't know if you've ever seen somebody give me a tip and me not say thank you.
Oh, no.
And there are a lot of dealers who don't. I mean, they don't. And that's a personal preference. A lot of people think it's too repetitive or you shouldn't do it. But I've always done it. I always feel like it's a big deal because a lot of the players say, you're welcome back.
Yeah.
It's not just me and it's not just something I say just because. Like, I mean it. I have taken care of 4 kids for a long time on dealing poker alone. I mean, I'll pick up working as a waitress here or whatever, little side jobs in the summertime, because in the summertime, the tips do decrease. The games decrease because people like to be outside and that sort of thing. So I do have to
fill in.
Yes, where it gets kind of low. But for the most part, for 20 years, I've taken care of 4 kids with no college degree, no real physical work, an excellent job. It's fun. You meet new people all the time. You laugh. You learn a whole lot of stuff, not just about poker, but about people in general, how people think, where they, what they do in their everyday life. I mean, I've never sat and talked to a doctor until I was dealing to one, a brain surgeon. I'm curious. So I've learned all kinds of stuff off a doc, just because, I mean, it's an opportunity to learn. To me, that's a lot for a job. You have to enjoy what you do, or it's kind of just like you're just doing it to get by, and it's terrible.
That
it's
is
miserable,
not a good existence. Yeah. So for me, poker, I've had a lot of different things, and each group of people, I talk to them differently. My wife is like, "Why do you talk like that when you're around them?" Well, that's how they talk, and it's not necessarily that I'm changing how I talk. It's just that's how I talk when I'm with them. I have fighters, I should train fighters, and then car guys, restaurant people, poker people, and I'm sure it goes on, but they are all different. But poker has given me my most, and for me, contacts, connections with people. Yeah. Poker, I've connected with more people and helped my business and different things, through that. Definitely a great opportunity there. So what's on your plate now? I mean, you're still dealing cards. Are you doing anything else, or?
At the moment, no. The last 12 months of my life have been absolute crap, pretty much. Just one thing after another, making the wrong decisions, and then making another wrong decision on top of that one, just doing silly stuff that I should have did when I was 20, and I'm 40 and doing it. So for the last 12 months, it's been kind of tough. I am still dealing cards, though. I deal 3 nights a week on the big game, 1 night a week on the small game. So I deal 4 nights a week. Yeah. My days and nights are mixed up. Just recently started going to the gym, toot. But I don't really have a whole lot going on like that,
Other than car. So yeah, the time, that's what wears me. I can remember working when me and Jeff were doing a game, and I'd worked at a shop, and I would have to be there at 7:30, and most nights I'd get out of there at no earlier than 2, more likely 4, 5, 6, and I did that 4 to 5 nights a week, and it would kill me. It would just destroy me. By Friday, I was completely out, and it really does mess with your sleep schedule, being out all night. I love nighttime though. It's like the world quiets down for me. I have a little ADHD thing going on maybe or something, but about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning when you're outside, it's like the world's a little quieter, and it's like, yeah. And I'm not going to get a bill collector call me then. So yeah. Yeah. I've had a rough run the last 24 months, and things are making a turn for me, but yeah, I'm right there with you. My thing is just keep going, you push, and success is the best revenge. So,
I've recently lost a friend. I actually went to her funeral today. She was 34 years old. She's got 3 kids of her own and a stepson. They're all 14 and younger. I'm sorry, the oldest is 16, 14, 11, and 7. And they don't have a mom. And so they kind of, the last 12 months has been bad. And I've just kind of been on a negative Nancy thing. But that kind of has put it into perspective a little bit for me, as far as like, I'm blessed. I'm here, things aren't great, but they could be a lot worse.
That's really odd that you say that, because a close friend of mine just lost his wife, and they had been married for 30 years. They were high school, so, and she had cancer, and it was a long decline. And I was going through one of the hardest days I've had in years. A few days ago, dealing with something that was just out of my control. And he called me about a car that we're building for him and his wife. And it kind of got, after all that happened, it was hard to, You know, it's hard for me. I'm not really good at that. I hate to call someone and say, "Hey, I'm sorry for your loss." Hey, I'm praying for everybody in the last. You know,
None of that means anything to them
I'm
either.
not really good with that. But he called me. I was sitting in the parking lot. Just had one of the worst conversations of my life prior to that. And he started talking to me about a car, and then right into that. And for 40 minutes, we had a conversation, and there was no, everything else had to stop for me.
Yeah.
And I was glad to be able to do that. And he was, again, putting that into perspective. You know, there's so many more important things than what we're out there chasing.
Yes.
I have to, and you have to, and we all have to provide. We have to,
for sure.
But when it comes down to it, those connections, that friendship, that
the meaningful stuff.
Yeah. I said this to someone recently. I said, you know, they had lost someone. And I said, you know, be thankful that you had the opportunity to love someone. There's a big difference. When someone loves you, that's awesome. You know, you really feel really good about it. But when they give you the opportunity to get inside and really start to love them, I think that's one of the biggest gifts you can have in the world. So I am always very thankful that I had the opportunity to love someone if I've lost, you know. And I think you're right there. Perspective sometimes comes and catches us. So doesn't change the fact that we got to pay the light bill. It makes it really hard. But, you know, at least we have that comfort to know that
just keep
the important things
always keep it in the back of your mind. Okay, this is hard.
I think that people who have had all their life and they continue to have, they see those things, those material things in the world and be moving and being successful. And hey, I'm that way. I tried really hard to get to a certain level. But when you've had it all your life, I think you lose that perspective. That person, when you're there and you are struggling, Jeff, our friend Jeff, when I'm at my low spot and I know that I can call him and he's going to take care of me, you know, that's different. You know, that's something that I wouldn't give that up for anything. That
having somebody that you can depend on that means it.
Yeah.
That's not just doing it so they can tell somebody they did it for you
or expect something from you. Exactly. You know, expect something from you. So we have that yeah, you know, growing up, and I'm sure we grew up differently, but you know, you weren't probably given just everything you ever asked for. You know,
no, we were a middle class family.
And you had
everything I needed for sure, and most of what I wanted.
And then when you get out on your own, you've had to make it happen. You know, there wasn't just someone there handing it out. So that makes you really think about those important things in life. So I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
Yeah. She also passed of cancer, you were saying.
Yeah. So that's another thing we've looked at. This area is one of the highest rates of cancer, and there's reasons for that. So that's something we're looking into too, for a future podcast. But so children, everybody's on I know you, how many children do you have?
I have 4.
4, right.
They are about to be 21, 18, 17, and 14.
Wow.
3 girls and a boy. And then I have 2 grandsons from my oldest 2. Yeah. They both have a little boy each. One's 2 and one's about to be a year old.
Well, I didn't want to leave them out because I know I know you're so proud of them. I see that. I mean, your social media everywhere. Yeah. So I started over. I have a 24, a 17, and now I have an 8-year-old. So, yeah. But for me, it's not. I don't have any grandchildren, but my 8-year-old is just, you know, another swing at it, and it's that is important to me. You know, I think that's my lineage, and that's what I'm leaving behind. It's the funnest thing for me, and we're going to wrap this up because I know everybody's getting kind of tired here, but me. But one of the funnest things for me is, and my wife's much younger than me too, so is to hear one of my kids or my wife say something stupid phrase that I say. They have no clue. It comes from some movie from the 70s, you know, and I just say it all the time. But to hear them say that, it's just like, I don't know. It's just like a little bit of
his kid's going to say it.
Immortality, you know, that a little part of me is living on through them. So it's great. Other family, I know. How's your dad?
He's good.
Good.
Retired.
Yeah.
Not working anymore.
Any poker in his life?
He likes to play. Yeah. But he is on.
I played with him a few times.
Like a monthly allotment. Yeah. So he's got to be careful. But he's married and she works at a casino in Cape, and Yeah, they're happy. And my dad's getting older. He's 65. He's kind of feeling it a little bit in his body, but yeah, he's
So
good.
your brother's good?
Yeah, he's
Busy?
good. Yeah.
Great. So I wanted to ask you, and I think I know the answer. I know you've had a hard time, and so have I. But are you happy, Nicole?
Working on it.
Yeah, yeah. You're
Working
finding
on it.
happiness.
Yeah,
I think sometimes people look at people and they see a smile, or they may see someone laugh. Oh, look, they're happy.
doesn't necessarily
it's a
mean
journey.
that.
It's a journey, and I am. Just so you know, there's somebody out there always talking about you, and I'm proud of. It's weird to say that, but I'm kind of proud of you, just because you're from a group of people that I'm so closely associated with, off and on. But just that, to see someone like you to watch you deal cards, and to listen to you, and to listen to people try to get into your head, it's it's one of my favorite stories to tell about poker. So I hope you continue to do well, and keep on that motivation moving forward. Happiness, you deserve it. You do. And I hope to keep seeing those kids on Facebook and
Definitely.
all that. Yeah. And I would love to plan another one in the future when this thing really goes off, because there's, like you said, there's so many things we didn't talk about, and I think people are interested in. So I really appreciate you coming out. Great to see you. Great to talk to you like this, instead of sitting beside you in seat one and talking to you about something during
and feeling
when
like
I
you're
folded.
in my way.
Yeah, I would fold a hand, and then you could actually talk. But so cool. Look forward to coming to a game and playing there soon. So
Cool.
Poker, awesome. Good to see you. Thanks again for
You
coming
too.
in. Thank you,
Thank
Jack,
you.
for coming in. Yeah, and we'll do it again soon.